Hello! I'm sorry I'm late after saying I'd be here at 12, but can you guess what happened? There was problems with the audio. When is there not problems with my audio? Yeah. Nice, but it's now working. Please give me the thumbs up if my audio is working nice with no back sound. Hello. Fantastic. Sorry I'm late after saying I'd be here at 12. Yeah. Let me just check that's all working. I can down that. Yes, it is all working. Cool. So nice to see you. So the title of this talk is Surrender Important for Awakening? Yes! What a fantastic title. I always say that, don't I? So I have to just tell you what's funny is that the audio didn't work, so I did an SOS call to my partner. I mean, I tried to get it to work and I couldn't get it to work. It worked when I tried it earlier. So I set it all up, went and had a meditation and stuff. And then it didn't work. So I called my partner and he's having an afternoon nap. And then he comes running down to help me. And then by the time he gets down here, it was working again. So if you're listening, partner, in the computer, because that's where you live, inside the computer, inside the hologram, I'm sorry. Next time I just have to wait. Yeah. But anyway, let's get back to the title. Is awakening, is surrender important to awakening? So first of all, we have to define what awakening is. Let's get practical. What is awakening? And then we can talk about what it means to surrender. So now, after 11 years of teaching, and I think I've been like this before, but you kind of always forget what you are in the past, so you always speak about it as if it's in the moment, especially with my fish brain memory, 6-second rule. So after 11 years of teaching, what I feel like now is that I just have no attachment to any teaching in any way. I can see how this can be spoken about from many different angles and have equal relevance. I could see how a neuroscientist could look inside the brain and come to an awakening. I could see how somebody into Kundalini awakening and energy could have an awakening from that. Somebody that's into Christianity or Islam or Jainism. And then the way the mind interprets it could be completely different for everybody. I don't see it as one way anymore. Maybe I've been like that for quite a while now. So I don't see, I do think it's the end of seeking, but that could be expressed in different ways. That was what I learned. So I learned to phrase it in the way of the end of seeking. But I could see somebody putting it in the positive of like finding God and loving God and being content in God's arms. I don't know, whatever stories we tell ourselves. It's all story. It's all a narrative. And we'll more than likely speak in the way in which we learnt before the awakening happened. But from a non-dual perspective, because that's the school, the kind of school Lisa went through, I will speak about it from non-dual perspective. So awakening from a non-dual perspective would be the dropping of the sense that you are a person, a narrative, emotions, feelings, the body, that you are something. So most people in this world, they walk around believing in themselves. They They're constantly putting up flags, like, this is what I am. I am rich. Woohoo! Can't you see my Gucci? I am more intelligent than. Can't you hear my knowledge and wisdom? I am a doctor. Can't you see my telescope? I am a fridge. That's a joke, obviously. You know, you claim all these things like, I am a good person, I am better than, and you're always looking for evidence of what you believe yourself to be. So if you believe you're better than other people, then you'll want to surround yourself with people that think that. You're not going to surround yourself with people that think that you're worse than. Then most likely the person that you'll surround yourself with is somebody that's got an identity that's like, I am lower than everybody else. So I am better than will partner up with I am lower. So the lower person will look up at the higher and they'll be like, me. I am higher, I'm lower. Both validating each other. And you know, and that's what we do as people. And this kind of happens, you could say in one way in thought, but it also happens through feeling in the body. You know, when you're better than, you can imagine the person has a more upright chest and a particular way in which they walk, and then the lower than, there'll be so it's kind of, and then there's also emotions that come with it. So it's also kind of feeling, but we don't really know what thoughts and feelings are and what the line between them is. Like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the feeling or the thought? The thought, the feeling, the thought, the feeling. And then we have this whole kind of unconscious world that's funky as well. Yes, yeah, so there's this dynamic happening in these bodies that doesn't seem to happen in animals, where we become self-aware as humans. So we look in the mirror and we're like, oh, that's me in the mirror. I am this body. And then we identify with a narrative about ourselves, with our actions, with what we do, what we've done, how we're better than, worse than, nicer than, uglier than, better at German than, you know the beeswax. And what seems to happen in awakening, although in a way awakening is so much more mysterious, there is some form of dropping away that stops your essence, your sense of being, the consciousness, the looking. So this initial sense of being contained inside the story of you. So it's almost like it explodes out, a little bit like, you know, the innie or the outie belly. It's like belly button. It's like the belly button goes and becomes an outie. So it's like your sense of self becomes more in line with this moment, with what's actually happening, rather than the narrative of what's happening and who you believe yourself to be. So before, it's like all you're consumed about is yourself, and then this moment is secondary. This consciousness, this looking, this beingness is secondary. And then after awakening, that becomes in the forefront and the person kind of goes into the background. That's what it feels like. So in non-duality terms, it would be there's an expansion, or there's a dropping of the me, or I don't like that terminology anymore, because it doesn't drop the character, it drops the attachment to that's who you are. That's not who you are. That's something that's appearing in this. It's like a vessel appearing in this. And the way that surrender comes in is what often happens in this process, although I'm realizing it can be so radically different for everybody. But what can happen for a lot of people is a surrendering to, on the human level, their circumstances. It doesn't mean that you surrender to being abused or being treated badly or staying in a crappy job. It's more, there's like an internal surrender that knows that getting things, being things, and doing things in life aren't what you're actually looking for. And there's a surrendering more into this moment, you could say, or to that which is prior to thought, prior to ideas, prior to things. This is very difficult to speak about because it's not easy in English. So there is this surrender. So, you know, in the past, there might have been like a huge urge and need to be successful. Whereas this, when you get into this, it's like this surrender begins to take over, where that's just not seen as the most important thing in life anymore. What's seen to be more important is what's actually happening now, not this idea of what you're going to get. And the same with pains, like prior, it'd be like pushing away pain. So if you felt pain, it would be like a mad activity to eat lots of food, consume lots of TV, drink alcohol, smoke drugs, or do drugs to get away from the pain or the discomfort that you're feeling in the moment. Whereas there is a surrender to that. So if you feel hurt by something that someone said, rather than going into a tsunami of action and dialogue and getting everyone against that person and doing all these things, there is like a surrender of into that pain of, yeah, that hurt, but there's not this desperate need to get away from it anymore. It's not like you're looking for painful experiences unless you're sadistic. It's just that when pain arises, it's not seen as something that's going to kill you anymore. It's like, yeah, this is part of it. So there's this element that begins to happen of surrender. So surrender from this mad attachment to achievement, and then this surrender from fighting pain or disappointment, or, well, that's pain, or, you know, like all these negative feelings. So you could say like the life becomes a lot more balanced because there isn't these wild swings of running away and attaching to, and running away and grabbing onto. So in Buddhism, they'd call it craving, this craving. And I feel like that's really true of what a human not knowing who they are is like. They're constantly craving something. Another image that they have in Buddhism that I always really liked was the hungry ghosts. It's like a realm. It's not like the ultimate depiction. And the hungry ghosts is these like beings that have tiny, tiny little mouths and tiny necks, but massive stomachs. And they can never eat enough to fill up their massive stomachs because their mouth and throat isn't big enough. Pardon me. And this is a little bit like this, when you don't know who you are, when there hasn't been this realization that you're this moment or this consciousness which is experiencing now, or this beingness, whatever you're calling it, or no thing and everything. Like without that awakening and realization and surrendering into this moment, it's like that is a bit what it's like. You're trying to cram experience into your face, but your face, your mouth, your pie hole isn't big enough. It just doesn't satisfy. No matter how much you eat, you never manage to satisfy that hunger. So this is where surrender comes in. And what happens is people take surrender very personally, and that can like get all a bit muddled, but it also can be really beautiful. The reason it can get a bit muddled is because the person takes on the story like, I need to surrender to my circumstances. I think it's quite big in Christianity and in religions, like surrendering to God's will, which in one way is really true, because another realization that can happen is this seeing that life is happening, that you aren't this big controller that you thought yourself to be. You aren't like the center of the universe. So life is happening and you're part of life. You're not the driver of the dream bus. You're more the passenger. So that there is the truth to that, but it can, like, for me, why not talk about myself? It's not like I do very often. It's a joke. For me, it's like like what happened here before and after awakening was false ideas about surrender. Particularly, you know, somebody behaves in a bit bad way, and you kind of know it's your projection. So you're not caught in defending or arguing or, you know, running away from it. So you know that it's your projection because everything's your projection. You know how it makes you feel, but you don't really act on it because you're like, oh, this is my reaction. This is my pain body, or this is my trauma, or this is old seeking patterns. So you don't really act on it. And that's not really what surrender's about. It is like a recognition that everything's your projection, but it doesn't mean non-action. Like a good example for me sometimes is surrender could be action. So, but the person takes it as surrender. So there's times in my life where I've been too passive and not looking out enough at other people's motive because there's a focus on surrendering to all the dynamics that's happening here. You might recognize that in yourself, but you might also be the other way where there's too much blame or too much guilt. So surrender can also be a big part in Roger Castillo's teaching. I'm not sure if he would speak about surrender, but or Ramesh as well, who were both my teachers, Balsika, they I can't remember if they speak about surrender, but there is an element to that. It's like, thy will be done, thy will be done. It's like this element of giving up control, like you aren't the doer. So giving control back to life. But again, this can be misconstrued, and there can be, dependent on your personality, like too much focus on like surrendering this body and not enough action. It's not about not acting. Surrender can be immense action. It's surrendering something deeper. It's surrendering that attachment to yourself and to life. Yeah, this belief that that's who you are, and this belief that you are the controller and you doer of life. But yeah, it's so different for everybody that in the end, people are always going to misconstrue parts of what's being said, and in a way it's part of it, because maybe sometimes there has to be an extreme leaning to get rid of old ideas. So yeah, that's why I'm always recommending people to work one-on-one with people, so these things can be picked up, you know, and listen to lots of different teachers. Not many teachers say that, but because then it's like you see it from different perspectives and you don't get stuck. You know, if you're just listening to surrender teachings, maybe somebody hasn't said this thing to you, that surrender can also be action. And it doesn't mean that that teacher you're listening to is bad. It's just that no teacher can possibly teach everything. That's like a 360-degree teaching. That doesn't really make sense, that analogy. Oh, I hope I'm not... I have to take my slippers off. It's in Northern Europe, we've been going through these intense heat, and it's ending the summer now, so it's like that stage where you're hot, cold. It's like you're not quite hot all the time, but you can, yeah, the body gets hot and then cold. Slippers on, slippers off, slippers on, slippers off. Yeah, I really hope I didn't show up my skirt then. That's made me paranoid. No, you can't see up my skirt. Okay. Could you see up my skirt? No, can't see up my skirt. Oh, I've got to tell you this really funny experience that happened to me and one of my ex-partners one time. So we were just, it was like 2011 or 12, and we were working out how to stream. And we didn't realize that we'd got streaming on, and it was streaming to YouTube. So we didn't realize. And my partner was wearing these like white cotton pajamas, and he was standing towards the light, so you could like see through the pajamas, like really extremely. And then I think he farted, or I farted or something, and then yeah, I think he was also saying some inappropriate things, and there was something like 50 people watching us. Maybe one of you were one of the people watching us. I think it went on for like an hour. Yeah, the horror shows of the internet sometimes, eh? We did also laugh a lot about it afterwards. Especially the farting part. I can't exactly remember what happened. Yeah. So can be really beautiful, you know, the teaching of surrender. But it's also keeping in mind like all these different angles, like who is it that's surrendering? And where does this person that feels like it's surrendering feels like it will go? So when you surrender, like I used to teach, like this isn't the plus teaching, this is the negative teaching, it's like the takeaway. But I don't say that so often anymore. But like when you do an action like surrender, it's like who is surrendering? So it's always questioning like who do you think yourself to be, which is really mind-blowing because you've always taken yourself to be the person that's surrendering, and then that person is going to get to awakening. But that action of surrendering is thoughts and feelings that are arising, and who you are is the witnessing of that, which is not located. So this is the other problem when you speak about witness or consciousness, is that conscious of that witness isn't located anywhere. So in a way, you could say it's invisible. So you could also say there's no consciousness because that consciousness is all places. So what you are is everything now, which is this immense expansion and freedom. You're not limited to this person that is like, okay, I'm going to surrender now. Who is going to surrender now? And what are you dreaming of when you surrender? That doesn't mean don't do it. It can be super beautiful to surrendering to what's happening. So say, you know, there's so many like kamikaze things that can happen in life. So say, you know, your car gets written off. It's like there is pain in that, and you can do emotional release in that, but there's also this element of surrendering it to life. Like this is what life was, and I can't take that out from life, because if I took it out, that experience of the car being crashed, then everything else would change. And is that something that I want to begin to play with? It's like the domino effect, like what will begin to happen if you take one thing out? And is that ever possible? And is it ever possible for there to be a somebody that can make a different choice? Like, can you have ever made the choice not to go into the car and crash it that day? Like that's really mind-bending. And who is this person that you're imagining? Like, so Khaleesi is my dog. She's beautiful Southeast Asian village dog. And she doesn't think about these things. She doesn't think, you know, like if we have an accident, like occasionally she doesn't really pull me off the bike, but something happens. Like the other day, we're cycling down a path, and this cat just jumps out of the bush at us, you know, and like didn't end up being an accident, but that was close to an accident. But we have these kind of mishaps on the bike sometimes, and we both get a bit hurt sometimes. Mostly me. Khaleesi normally pegs out of the way before anything lands on her, but you know, she gets, you know, the shock. But she doesn't think after this experience, when I'm limping home, this was actually the cause of why I bumped my head, because of a bike ride of us. But she doesn't think when we're limping home, like, I shouldn't have gone on my bike, or this shouldn't have happened, or if I didn't do that. That she doesn't have that possibility. It's like, what happened? And there's no other question for her. And that's the same for, I think, most animals on this planet. They can't really contemplate something being different. So we can contemplate something different being different, but that doesn't mean that that's real. But we take it to be real, that there could be something different. I could have chosen to not get in that car, and then we spend days and days in regret. But that's such a sophisticated thinking system, but it's not actually a reality, because things can't be different from what happened, and you could never have made a different choice. Through contemplating that, what we can do is we can update the beautiful software of these bodies, and we can make a different choice in the future. So in the future, we could think, you know, do this, do that, you know, we can have a good old chinwag, and that will change it. And I assume that's part of the reason why we've had this ability to reflect. But because we take our thoughts to be so serious, we really believe there's a you there that's guilty, did something wrong, and could have done something different. So we spend ages in regret of ourselves, when this isn't actually a possibility. You could never have made a different choice to what you made in that moment, which is obvious. You could never have done that. You can never have acted differently. And that choice you made was dependent on every goddamn thing that came before, and this bizarre thing that's appearing now in this moment, the fact that in that moment that was the urge and the action that appeared, and we don't really know where that comes from. We can detail it as like, oh well, Lisa did this and Lisa did that, and then she made a choice to do this. But in the moment, it's these thoughts and these feelings are appearing out of we don't know what. It's really mysterious. So in this moment, they're just appearing. And then in the past timeline, that's our story, our narrative of what happened. But that's not actually a fixed thing. We know from our own experience, and even science is saying this now, that, you know, our narratives of what happened aren't necessarily what happened. Because our mind changes things. Our mind changes things up to 40% if it's got a heightened emotion. So our mind, and we also leave out lots of things from our detailed stories of our past. There's so many things that are left out. All those cups of teas that have been made, they've all been left out from your memory. It's like, oh yeah, I wish I didn't make that cup of tea in 1998 when I and this cup of tea in 90. Those are all gone from your memory. All the toilet breaks have gone. All the times you bumped your leg into the sofa. There's so many things from the memory that have disappeared, and your memory changes over time. Like, we're not liars as such, not purposely lying, but me as well, I know I do this, is that your memory will begin to slowly merge into what you want to tell about yourself. So your current story that you want to tell about yourself. So if you want to tell and present to the world that you are a really honest, beautiful person, then your mind will begin to leave out all the times you lie and highlight and bring forward these other times you told the truth, and kind of like will become a new story of you. So stories that we tell ourselves are highly inaccurate. We don't know for sure that they definitely happened because we only know this moment with these memories and these images of what came before. So it's a funky dance. It's a funky chicken dance anyway. And this is why non-duality is really profound and beautiful, because it's constantly questioning something which should be questioned by every goddamn human. My God, should we question our thoughts? Is it true that we are all souls that live inside the body? Is it true that we should all get educated in the education system? I can't think of all these things. But you know, you get my beeswax, my chin wag. Is it true anything you think? Anything that we feel? It's true relatively, as in that's what you're thinking and that's what you're feeling. And there can be relative truth. So it's like if I described that I just walked across the room and tripped over, that's like a relative truth. I didn't just do that, but with being hypothetical. But it's not the truth. It's not the actual truth. So I feel angry. You know, prior to getting into this subject, it's like instead of I feel angry, it'd be like, you made me angry. That made me angry. And then I'll say I feel angry, but even I feel angry is a profound concept that's not necessarily true. There is energy arising in the body, like, and then yeah, it's not necessarily the truth, you know. Everything that we think, I mean, we could just go completely didally with that, but like everything, like the idea of death, the idea of life, the idea of infinite, the idea of finite, all of these are concepts, the idea of love that we as humans have made up. And then we're trying to name the experience, and then we don't know how much that warps the experience. because you can only see your thoughts in your brain. So when you're naming it, like, how much does it warp what's actually happening out there? Like, how can we know the difference or know if there is an out there, or this is just like a hologram and we're inside this computer space and experiencing apparently through this virtual reality called a human, but it's just a game. Like, there's so many questions. The reason that humans do this is a form of survival. Like, it, to name and secure your environment and to make it the same every day is going to more than likely make your survival chances higher and reduce fear, because then you're not looking at the unknown abyss, which humans aren't very good at. So it's like, in a way, it's like an evolutionary survival technique to keep naming and renaming your environment and retelling the story of yourself and who the others are. But it just goes a bit insane, wouldn't you say? It just gets loopy because it keeps doing this and repeating itself. You know, anything that doesn't fit into the category of you, it's like, danger, danger, danger. This is why we most probably have so many racial wars. Well, I'm positive it is. Because it's like, they are different, danger, different, different. It just makes people feel scared because it's unknown. But this is what is beautiful about non-duality, because it's trying to open that up and also saying, okay, so what happens if you just sit with that unknownness? Like, what happens if you just sit with not knowing and that insecurity, rather than running away from it and trying to build lots of constructs? And it could have two possible effects. It could send you insane, or there could be like a dropping deeper into yourself where there's a greater acceptance of pain and there's like less desire to run away from pain and more openness to the mystery of this life. Yeah. I think that's the end of my ramblings. I hope they made some form of sense. I'm now going to see if there's any questions. So if you want to ask me questions, you can do on Skype. My Skype address is LisaCairns12. My glasses are slightly dirty. You can also ask questions through the YouTube chat, but if you could just put question and then ask the question, because it's hard for me to find them. Yes. Okay, let me open Skype. So it's LisaCairns12. If you want to call in, put call me and nothing else. Otherwise, you can write a question in Skype. Also, this is maybe a good time to remind you that I've stopped the way I'm doing these live streams, and I'm not doing them every Sunday at 4 p.m. French time, even though today is Sunday at 4 p.m. French time. But I'm going to do them more on what I feel. So it might be at 4 o'clock. Yeah, so you have to subscribe to my YouTube channel and put on the notifications to see when I go live. Yeah, it'll be different every week from now on. I just do this for a while and see what happens. It's also nice because the different times, different people in the world will be awake. Okay, this is from Pablo. Hello, beloved teacher. Oof, that's very lovely to call me beloved teacher. I don't really see myself like a teacher, but I obviously call myself that because what else do I call myself? I am from Argentina. My English is not good. I am using the translator. I have been a seeker for years, and my inquiry... Oh, I'm going to have to wear my other glasses. They're too dirty. Sorry. Using my thumb. Making all these reflections. I have been a seeker for years, and my inquiry is into the I am, and even though it stabilizes, however, I continue to suffer a lot from the attacks of the mind. Could you tell me something? Could you connect me with an online translator? I know that your question is a bit before, but it could be that you take that the question is, could you connect me to an online translator? I'm happy to answer you, but I don't know about an online translator. I think that people can upload translations, so maybe somebody could do a Spanish translation. But I don't know how to do that. Yeah. So I'll just answer it, even though you can't understand my reply. Maybe one day you can. So Pablo, so for those of you that are maybe new to my channel or don't know what Pablo means by the I am, I would just explain. So traditionally in non-duality, the way that it's taught is that what comes first is nothing, not a thing. So that's not like you imagine like a big black hole in the middle of space. Nothing is not a thing. So the start is not a thing. So you cannot imagine that. So it's not non-existence, because that's something. It's beyond that. It's nothing. Something which cannot be named and we cannot grab and find. So there is nothing. And then the first thing that comes into play is consciousness. I think this is the traditional teachings. I'm sure they teach it slightly different in variations. So you get the nothingness and then you got the consciousness. So you can have experiences where there's like consciousness of nothing, but it's not really nothing, but there's just consciousness. These can be awakening experiences. And that consciousness is before the body and the mind. So consciousness doesn't come from the brain comes from consciousness. So you got nothing and then you got consciousness. And then you've got, you need a form to experience things through. There has to be a form, because when you're in your state of just being consciousness without having a form to look through, then there's no things. So then consciousness looks through a body at a world. So you could think of the body a bit like these virtual reality goggles you put onto your head. And then you look through, like when I did a virtual reality quest in Berlin, I was cow. Unfortunately, I wanted to be a different animal, but I got confused in picking and ended up with a cow with hooves. And I was looking through a cow running around this spaceship. I also had a spacesuit on as a cow. Yes. So you could say like my avatar was the cow. So you could say these bodies are like avatars. So you got nothing, consciousness looking through the avatar at the body, at the world. When playing the virtual reality game, you have to be centered to something, otherwise the whole world would be totally chaotic. So there has to be a body which is looked through. There has to be a position which is looked through. So you have the nothing, the consciousness, the body, and then when the body arises, there is this sense, this is the teaching, the sense of I am. So it goes consciousness, nothing, consciousness, the body, and then there is a sense that I am. I am. Like there is a feeling of existing in this, like I am. Not I am the body, not I am something, just I am. So you've got the consciousness prior to the body and then the I am after the body and the world exists. And it kind of all collapses into one at the end, but this is the traditional teaching. Or some of the traditional teachings. It's very hard to summarize, eh? And then with the I am comes the whole world. So in a way, the whole world comes with the body, but it's just the line. So you've got consciousness, you've got nothing, consciousness, the body, the I am, and then the whole world. The world. And to me, the I am is love. So the I am part is love. So when you're born, there is a sense of being, but it's not anybody. There is this baby, but it's not anyone. It's not like, oh, I'm Joey living in a cot or sleeping in a cot and there's my mother. There is just this sense of being and this empty looking. And this being, this I am, isn't located anywhere. It's just a sense of existence. It's very beautiful. So what they also teach in some traditional non-duality ways is that you can kind of like move your attention and become conscious of the I am. And I can kind of see that, but in another way you can't really do that. But it's kind of taught like that. So it's like the personal awareness of the body can come conscious of the I am. So you can notice like I am. So I am before anything that you know of yourself. I am. There's this I am. This amness. And you can kind of see there can be something that knows that. I am. Yeah. This is. So there can be like the personal awareness can kind of in some way know this sense of I am, and it feels like love. And it never leaves, it's always here with the body. It's always in this moment. You can't ever escape this I am. Not I am good, I am Robert, I am Sarah, I am this, I am that. Not I am anything. Prior to it going into anything, it's like this sense of I am. And so Nisargadatta Maharaj originally used to teach, and his teacher, that you put your attention in the I am. So that's what Nisargadatta did, and then he had this big awakening. For 3 years he did it all the time, putting his attention in the I am. You could also say like putting your attention in the present moment, because the I am is kind of the present moment. So it's like moving the personal awareness into the I am. And then you've got this consciousness which knows all of that, perceives all of that. So that's like the big consciousness. So you've got the personal awareness that's doing this practice. And the big consciousness that knows the personal awareness that's doing that, knows the I am, knows the world, knows everything. It just is knowing without anything. Yeah, and this can be really beautiful practice. It's what the Buddhists teach. They teach being in the moment. You've got to practice being in the moment. The Advaitas and the non-duality and the Hindus, it's like being in the I am, or being in the consciousness as well. The Zens, they teach this as well. Buddhists, some of them, they teach, focusing on the breath to bring you to this moment. Because the breath is always in this moment, they say. And to me, it's like you're in that practice, you're settling down the mind and highlighting this moment. So this moment is becoming more highlighted. Whereas before you're just lost in thought and it's all about this ego structure. Whereas when you begin to do this, you're kind of highlighting this moment more, and then the thought path or the neural pathways in the brain are becoming disrupted, and Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful practice. However, like in this practice, this doesn't mean don't do it. You've got to begin to question, who is this person that is practicing the I am, and who is this person that's going to arrive at enlightenment, and see that these are also daydreams that are happening in time. So if you're really focusing on the I am, like really present, those ideas don't exist. But they are ideas. Even the idea that you're putting your attention in this moment. What happens in awakening is it kind of like this switches over, and it's like presence is everything. So it's no longer an activity as such. Although that activity can arise, it's also like this is you, and that person is secondary. Yeah, that makes it really complex. So the reason that you find it hard to stay in that is because, one, the tendency of the mind is to think. So you're not doing really bad by not staying in it. It's just the tendency, and you're reconditioning your mind. And number two is because of maybe unconscious stuff that hasn't been resolved in you. So say if you are with your mother in the kitchen and she is being passive aggressive to you, you might have like lots of seeking and resistance to that. So your body takes over and goes into like old patterns, and then you kind of like your attention is sucked into that. So then you can look, you know, if there's things that you find that really distract you, you could look at doing trauma release, like some sort of talk therapy or sessions to try and understand like what's happening in your unconscious. The goal, however, is not, I don't see the goal as like putting your attention in I am, and then that one that's putting the attention in the I am will wake up. I see it as all these things get pulled away of what you believe yourself to be, and then at some point there is just a shift. There stops being that identification with it. But that's not saying don't practice that. I would say question who is practicing that. Like practice happens, doing happens. Yeah. Okay, thanks Pablo. So if you want to call in on Skype, remember to put call me. And I will call you. So just put call me. Hi Lars. Hello Lisa. I liked your video on YouTube about anxiety. I have had a lot of anxiety and chronic pain throughout my life. Now I know it comes from repressed emotion and of traumatic events in my childhood. I am doing much better lately. I have been working on I've been working on repressed emotions with EFT. Choice again, 6 steps of freedom, and journaling. That's great, Lars. I'm really happy for you. There's a lot that Western therapy, or these Western therapies, I don't know if we call it Western, but therapy can offer. I feel so often in the non-duality community it's excluded. No, not that often, but sometimes. And there's so much that it can offer to settle down the person and to rework the chemistry of the brain. Well, yeah, I don't know what all these things are in the end, where thoughts come from, or all of that. Yeah, so I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you for reporting that. Now I have some trouble with finding a new job lately. Usually the stress and anxiety comes back. My mind finds it stressful. It is usually at night, then I can't sleep. Tuesday I'm having a job interview and I'm worrying about the anxiety and not sleeping. I try to do the 6 steps to freedom technique and journaling. It helps, but I still feel a bit anxious. Can you talk about it on your YouTube stream, or can I book a one-to-one session? What does that cost? Best wishes, Lars. Yeah, Lars, I don't offer one-to-one sessions to the public currently. I do one-to-one sessions, but just with people that I've worked with for a long time on an ongoing basis, but I don't have any new spots. I'm totally booked up. Yeah, so you can't book a one-to-one session. So we can talk about it. If you want to call in, you can call me Lars, and I can call you. I would recommend though working one-on-one with someone. You know, if you go to my website, there's lots of non-duality teachers, and there's also a section with therapists that also know about non-duality, and just keep working on it and talking it through of why that's arising, and looking at why that's arising, and the anxiety and the fear that comes about. I suspect when that's happening at night, you know, putting your attention into the moment or putting your attention into I am won't work. And sometimes if the anxiety is trauma-based, then like dropping in and feeling the trauma can work, but it can also, you get stuck in it, like you feel into it, especially at night, and that anxiety increases. Anxiety tends to increase at night, they think, because we're animals in the end, and nighttime was a less safe time for us, so we are more hyperly aroused at nighttime. They also think because of all our computer use and overactivity that our brains are more active now in the evening, which increases anxiety as well. So you could also look at your nighttime rituals before going to bed, so changing those a bit. Yeah, but it sounds like you're doing a remarkable job, and I feel really happy for you. From the non-duality answer, you know you're always welcome, but it might not be the appropriate thing to do at night, to begin to question who is the one with anxiety, and what are you prior to the anxiety, what are you prior to the efforts, who are you? But you know, that might not be the appropriate, it might be appropriate to do more therapeutic release stuff for that. Yeah, thanks Lars. If you want to talk, you're welcome. We can talk live, and you can call me and I will call you. Hey Thomas, nice to hear from you. Hi Vahid. Hi Lisa. Thank you for the live. As non-duality teachers say, the me will disappear by itself. Actually, I've stopped saying it like that because I'm not sure exactly what they mean by it, but from me, from the way that I teach, like, what does that mean, the me disappears? So if you listen to a lot of those non-duality teachers that say that, and I was one of them in the past that used to speak in that way, they would say, but there's still a character. So that's very big, the me disappears. I would say what happens is that stops being an identification with the character, and I feel more happy with that. There always needs to remain some identification with the character in the body, but there is like a shift that happens where like your sense of being you is more in line with this moment rather than a character. I feel more happy with that now. You know, it's funny, when you start teaching, you don't get a manual to teach, and so you teach often similar to the way you were taught this subject. And you know, and over the years, you know, speaking with people, and it just began to make less and less sense to me, that way of speaking. Anyway, my question is, why this happens so rarely? Shouldn't it occur here and there on a large scale around the world to prove that it's a real event? Well, large and small is relative. I don't know. I do not know, Vahid. I hope there's more research into this to really understand what's happening, and yeah. And the best that you can do is, if you is like looking at yourself, looking at the stories you tell yourself, looking at your ways of being. Trauma release, putting your attention in this present moment, and then it's like, wait to see what happens. Become a happier person, become a more balanced person, and listen to non-duality and see what happens, and don't really get too focused on the outcome, because it does seem to be rare. So why not focus more on the human level, living a more balanced and happy life? I mean, that would just be superbulous if society rated that. Society doesn't. It's like, become rich and then you're done. So, getting to know yourself, being more authentic and true, understanding your relationships, what you want from relationships, understanding non-duality, the nature of thinking, that you aren't your thoughts, conceptualizing it, getting it from that perspective. And then it's like, forget about the outcome. Do it because there's a passion there to do it, or because there is an emergency there to do it, because there's a lot of unhappiness. Ramesh used to always say, and I really like this, like latterly in his talks, he changed the way he spoke again, was that all the person wants is happiness. I think Roger still speaks like this. And in a way that's true. The person on the human level wants happiness. So use all these things that you're learning through non-duality to become a more happy person. Like be wise, like wisdom, and then maybe magic begins to reveal itself. One thing that I now appreciate more about the way they teach it in India is they teach it, as in you're working for this life after life. So it's not this like expectation, it's like a gradual thing, which I see the beauty in that, because it kind of like slows down your mind, like, I must make it in the next 5 years, otherwise I am a failure. I meet so many people that are frustrated and think they should have had this awakening, and I just feel like that's such a sad way to live, and that's really not what non-duality is teaching, to live in a state of frustration waiting for something to happen. Like, just get on with, on the human level, like working on your dynamics and your life, so it's a more balanced, happy, peaceful life. And there's so much out there now, and part of that is putting your attention in the I am, and then let the magic happen when the magic happens, but not living your life so you're waiting for this grand event, because maybe it isn't in this body's lifetime. It will happen in the moment of death, and time is irrelevant anyway, because it's all happening now. So that this future that you're going to wake up in is in a way happening now. Thanks, Fahid. Yes, live MRR roof 9404. Yes, I will call you. Oops. One moment. Hello. I might have just cut off my audio. Hello? No, I didn't. Okay, here we're coming live. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? What am I gonna find? Bong, bong, bong. Are they gonna answer ever? That's my mouth doing the ring image of Skype. It's like a fish. Live isn't online. Okay. So we're not going to live. Okay, Alter. Yes, I will call you Alter. Hello.
Do you hear me?
It's very quiet.
Very quiet. 1 minute. I'll take my headphones.
Okay, I can just about hear you though.
Now, do you hear me well?
No, you're very quiet, but that's okay. I can kind of hear you.
Only kinda.
Oh.
All right. Okay. And this way.
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Okay. I hold microphone near my mouth.
Okay.
Okay. So when I talked about I am, that's kind of piqued my interest because I recently had some experience where I don't understand it well, but now I kind of can agree that I am not a body, not my name, not alter, but I don't know is there any I at all. If it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, these all comes down to semantics in the end, because if you could just you're holding your microphone, it's just making a humming sign because you're touching it. So just when I'm speaking, could you just let it go or something? That's it. It's stopped now. So there is no I.
There is no I, but I am. You said it. I am.
Yeah.
How it can be so?
Because you're looking at it more intellectually than experientially. So I mean, like in the end, everything I say is concepts, so we can't really capture a teaching in a concept. But it's like, so in this moment there is two things seemingly happening. There is this looking at everything, and this looking, when it's really meditated on and seen, that looking can't be separated from anything. So you could say this consciousness or this witness that is prior to anything personal, like it's not your consciousness, it's like a looking. And there's also this sense of existence, like you're not like there's a sense of existence which isn't intellectual, it's a feeling, and you've always kind of had it. You've always kind of had this feeling of being you. But this feeling of being you isn't personal. So that's just my way of saying it. It's not like that feeling of you has a quality. It's just like a feeling of existence, a feeling of being. And that to me is the I am. Maybe other people call it other things. But it's not personal. It's not like that sense of existence is like I am good, or I own this, or I am in a body. It's more a sense of being. Like, so you always feel, and it feels like ageless, like you always have that sense of being and this sense of watching. Now, a lot of people, the teaching, I told you the traditional teaching of Advaita, so it's like the consciousness becomes before the I am, so the consciousness is witnessing the I am. And you can kind of see that when you're flexible with your mind. It's like the consciousness, that the I am is known in a way, but the I am, or that sense of existence, isn't separate from anything, as the same way as consciousness isn't. So I used to think I am a person, and then I got down to I am, like I could feel this sense of I am that felt like it was coming from the heart. But when I had these awakening experiences, that I am wasn't limited to my body. I realized that I couldn't separate I am out from the whole entire world, the sense of existence, the same way consciousness couldn't be. So when I say I am, maybe I'm talking about it in different ways to other teachers do, but it's not personal. It doesn't have any person in it. What do you mean by I am?
What do I mean? I don't I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
just
confusing, eh?
can't find myself.
Sorry?
I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am.
Yeah, but you always, like, you don't know who you are. That's beautiful. Like, on the ultimate level, you don't know who you are. But there is these two things that always happen in every experience. Like, right now, there is a looking and there is a sense of being. Like, this is. It's not like this is the big black hole of non-existence. Like, this is, and there's looking. So we don't even need to say that that's who you are. But those are the two fundamentals of experiencing. They're always here.
One more thing. You said, for example, that I am love. But I wonder, can different beings, different people, uh, in be like not the same eye, but be different eyes, different true eyes, not ego or something like surface level, but in like in the true eye meaning, in sense.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like separate souls?
Yes, like separate, like when you get down to the true, what you really are, I can this I be different
From
uh,
other people's eye.
from other peoples, from other animals, from other beings?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the end, we don't know the answer to all these questions. I know you have a projection maybe onto me that I should know the answer to these questions, and without knowing the answer, I'm failing in some way. But
No,
like
I want to explore.
Yeah, you want to explore. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to be presumptuous that that's what you're saying. I think I'm just being trying to be a bit funny and saying that, like.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I don't have a big ego.
Yeah. So, like in the end, we don't really know. What we do know is the experience, and the experience is there is no inside and outside of looking. So of perception. So not somebody's perception, but this big looking. And there's no inside and outside of this sense of existence, this impersonal I am. And that's, that's, so other people appear in and as that. Then we can get into imagination and we can say, is the separate consciousness and I ams that are happening in all the different bodies, and we don't know. We can make assumptions, and I can teach to you what's traditionally taught in non-duality, that it's the same consciousness looking through all different bodies. But in the end, that's always going to be a thought. And the experience is there is this looking, which is everywhere and everything. And there is this love, this I am, which is everywhere and everything. And that's really the freedom, that awakening and that shift from being this narrow person that exists inside the body to this expansiveness. And then it's kind of like these things don't really matter anymore. Like the way we define it just matters for teaching and for the awakening person. And then once the awakening's happened, it's like we don't know, and we live in that uncertainty of we don't know what this life is, we don't know why it's happening, and we never will be able to know. We can enjoy making theories, but they're seen to be as they are, which are theories. But there is this sense of freedom with this groundedness in what's happening, or this expansion in what's happening. And this is why there's so many, I feel this is why there's so many different teachings of this, this is spoken about in Christianity, in Hinduism, in non-duality, in Buddhism, in yoga, in all these different traditions. And then you've got all different teachers that teach in different ways, because I don't feel that any of us can ever really know anything. But we go through this seeming process of de-picking what we think we do know, and we have all these new ideas put in to try to undo that. And then we're left with a big mystery.
Maybe in all those different teachings, they have somewhat different insights. Like, from Advaita, maybe they understand something like something more than what called enlightenment in like Neo-Advaita or Buddhism. Do you think so?
The other teachers, yeah, people always think lots of things. I'm not saying that's wrong. Maybe they do know more, but
it's not, I mean, maybe it's not just the different words. Maybe different teachings has somewhat different insights, and like for example, that one teaching don't one teacher may don't understand something, another may understand. It's not just different words. Do you think it's possible?
right, yeah, and anything's possible. That's totally, like, to me, I really see it as being an impossibility to ever understand this mystery. But in that,
it would be boring if it was possible to
yeah,
understand.
well, I don't know, but in that there is the openness to somebody arising that thinks they do know, and that's totally okay. And in the end, that's I'm sure they could have some interesting insights, and that could be beautiful. But to me, I feel that feels like that is the deepest conviction here, is that this will and always will be mystery. That's maybe actually maybe you've just helped me in this moment come to like one of the deepest things that I feel. Like it feels like the nature of this dream is to surrender into the unknowable nature of it.
Eternal mystery.
Yeah, but I'm also, I love it when people come along and they've got these big bolshy ideas. I might not like listening to it for too long, but I might enjoy listening for too long, because it's so fascinating thoughts and what we can come up with. We're amazing machines.
Yeah, if I, for example, say that I'm God, do you think it makes sense? Or you, for example, if you say that you're God?
I don't know if I would say that so often, because then, I mean, I'm sure I have said that in videos before. There is, but I don't know if I would say that too often because of the meaning that's attached to that. But yeah, in the way we could say that, like, everybody is God, everything is God.
I just had an LSD trip 1 month ago,
Yeah.
and then I went outside and started telling everybody that I'm God, and I do that till this moment.
Yeah.
But I actually a little bit forgot what I meant when I said that first when I was tripping. Well, it was something deep.
Yeah. It does give
something.
Yeah. It's to me, when you're expressing that, or when people are expressing that, it's like the experience of who you are beyond mind is all-knowing. Not all-knowing intellectually, so it's not like you get downloads of knowing everything that's ever happened in this world, but it's like it's a complete contentment with what you are, and in that it's got this feeling of knowing everything. Like there's no questions. Like this is because this is. It feels very grounded in that. Like this moment is very like this is because this is. It has no questions. It has nothing unanswered. Everything in a way you could say is answered. And it's got this love and this intimacy and this unconditionedness to it. And so when people have these awakenings, their interpretation of that and their mythology, which has told stories to them their whole life, feels like that's God. Like that's what they understand God to be, this all-knowing person that has unconditional love. But it's not quite like that. But it's like that's the easiest thing they can relate to.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's beautiful though. The reason that I step away from saying that is because I became aware through teaching non-duality that non-duality can be like flypaper for narcissists. Do you know what flypaper is? Where you put up sticky paper and the flies stick themselves to it.
Yeah, I know.
So the idea of like enlightenment or being God can be like flypaper for narcissists. So, or narcissistic traits or defense mechanisms in people. So I try to move away a little bit from that a bit, because it's misunderstood, and what it attracts as well. Like it can create lots of grandiosity. Do you know what I mean when I say narcissists? Like I mean, like narcissist to me is somebody that's very focused on being bigger than, better than everybody else. It's like a defense mechanism. Like, and being I am God to them is like ecstasy. It's like, I always suspected I was God.
Maybe I'm a little bit narcissist.
Well, I think we all have healthy narcissism. Like I think there is it's like a spectrum, and all of us have healthy narcissistic traits. Like if I didn't have it in my personality a bit, maybe I'd have never opened my mouth to share it. Like it's, like artists need it. We need it in a way to go out into the world, but then it becomes unhealthy where people use it as a defense mechanism, where it becomes, like I am the ruler, I am the best, I am the greatest, I am the biggest. Everything revolves around me, and then when they find out they're God, or they hear this teaching, they're like, yes, I am.
Yeah, but it can look very different. For example, some time ago I was very shy. I wouldn't, for example, call you like that. I would be afraid to do that.
Yeah.
But now I'm not, and I actually like talking to people. I like telling them something like outlandish about myself and see the reaction. And I think I was much more narcissist back then because I was shy, because I was afraid what others.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, totally. And this is becoming more healthy on the human level. You get more into flow, and you become more like you were as a child. When you were a child, you didn't have such a strong identity that was watching every action being like good, bad. It's more, you're just in this playful mode of not necessarily playful, but you're just more childlike, as in you don't have such a second identity watching you. So you're just doing things more spontaneously.
Yeah, but my point is I wanted to make with this is that when I was shy, nobody probably would think that I am like somewhat narcissistic, because I don't speak to anybody. I'm like humble, etc. But now I like to bring attention to myself, but I like to like say different like things that many people wouldn't like, and but I don't think about myself at the same time. Like I don't have a lot of internal dialogue.
Yeah.
I don't, and now I feel like much better. Like back then I was like narcissist, and now I'm much less so.
Yeah.
And so it's from the outside point of view, for other people, it may be like looking in reverse.
Yeah. I think they have terminology for that in psychology. I think they might call it a covert narcissist or something. Like it's more hidden. It's more, yeah. But yeah, totally. A narcissist could be look like an introvert, but it's actually because there's so much paranoia about not being perfect and not being the best at everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wasn't really like pathological narcissist. I just was caring too much about myself.
Yeah, there was just traits of that. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I like talking to you.
Oh, I like talking to you too.
Thank you. So I wish you all the best, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I wish you all the best too, and enjoy watching SpongeBob. What is he called?
Yeah.
SpongeBob what pants? Big Pants? No, I've forgotten his name.
SquarePants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
You got a picture, your Skype picture is that, so I'm actually talking to SpongeBob and his friend. I forgot what his friend's name is.
Yeah, it's Patrick. Patrick. Yeah, I watched SpongeBob a lot when I was teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
so I hope we'll talk again.
Yeah, yeah, that would be lovely. Yeah, thank you for calling in and being open to this dialogue. It's really beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
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 These are my intelligence glasses. Beloved Lisa, so wonderful seeing you here today, now on YouTube. I love you, Lisa. I love you, Izzy. RP. Lisa, I also sent you a message via website. Raven Petra Amelia replied, if you want to listen to a non-dual song that I made. Oh, thank you. RP. Yeah, thanks for sending that. I won't listen to it now because I'm obviously doing a live stream. I'm here. I'd like you to try again if possible. Yes, live. Here we go. I really need the toilet. I will hold it for the sake of this call. What empathy and compassion she truly has. Holding the wee-wee. Live. You're missing it again. You're playing with me. I'm joking. I am joking, I am joking, I am joking. Okay. Savar. How do you pronounce those letters together? Sarav. Sarav. Hello, Lisa. For quite a long time, I am listening to you and other non-dual teachers and have come to understand more about our real self, and I'm very clearly able to understand how mind is what we mistake for ourselves, and that we are that even pervades and perceives the mind. But this body, mind, intellect mechanism is not able to realize its source. So I just want to ask that could we not realize ourselves without any medications and any sort of practice, but just come into realization through questioning and understanding the non-dual text? Or is it that at some part of the journey we do need to meditate and then realize our sheer presence divested of this body mind? Sorry, I can't read that word. Please help me get clarification on this, my sweet non-dual master. Oh yes, I am a master, especially with my yellow glasses. Well, okay, sorry, I've got to go back to the question I forgot here already. It's not realized its source. So I don't know what you mean by it's not realized its source. Do you mean that there's not been an awakening? So it's like there's an intellectual understanding and seeing of it, but there's not been an energetic shift. I don't know what creates the energetic shift, and I wouldn't get too fixated on it. It's, in a way, it's regrettable that I have to talk about it, but in a way I feel like it's important that I speak about it as well. But it's regrettable because it does create this like this idolization, whereas some teachers don't talk about it and people just think that it's the intellectual realization of it, you know, like they've cognitively understood this and then they think that's it, and then they think there's an integration into that. And there can be like a slow, like there's the intellectual realization and there's a slow dissolving of self that can happen. So it's regrettable that you've got this image. Like, so what I would do is just hold that lightly in the back of the mind, that is something that may or may not happen. And that just hold it over there. And then I would work on sorting out the human person now. So like listen to non-duality, keep reminding yourself of this message, but just work on settling down the dynamics. So understanding non-duality will give you great insight into yourself, because you can see this mind, its thoughts, its unconscious. But you can go deeper into that, like the way you're relating with people, what you're feeling in everyday moment, like why your attention goes on to distractions, like when you're seeking, when you're not seeking. You can do emotional release. You can do the practice of putting the attention in the I am. And the whole time holding it in the space, there's not actually somebody doing something. That's a description of what can happen. It's not a prescription. That I, that one that believes it's doing all these things and settling itself down, doesn't inherently exist as a separate entity that exists inside this body. And then through settling down the person, there could be this relaxation, this drop, and then this shift. So that would be my recommendation. There can be meditation, there can be all types of practices. You can go onto my website on the reference page and you can find all different things to do, but there's loads more out there. Loads more. I'm not saying that limit yourself to those. Those are just some, you know, springboards for you to dive into. Diving deeper and deeper, that is your quote. Yes. Okay. Any more? Live. It doesn't show me when you call, only that I've missed it. Shall I call you? Very strange. This is Scott. I'm sensitive Pisces. I met you in Goa. Perhaps you remember. Hey, Scott. Well, I'm just going to go to the toilet and then I'll come back and I'll call you. Okay? To be as elegant as I can be. No upper skirts. Okay, Scott, I am just about to call you. Here I come. Ready or not. The problem is that you lot are behind. You don't realise that, but you are. Hello.
Lisa, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm thinking there's something wrong on my computer today because you're also incredibly quiet for me.
Still?
Yeah, but it might be on my side.
Yeah, I don't know. I changed some settings in Skype, and now the call came through. Before it wasn't coming
Oh,
through.
hang on. I know what I can do. I can turn up the volume in Skype. 1 moment. Oh no, they're at the max. Okay, nice. How can I help you today, Scott? Or not help you? It could be a very disappointing ordeal.
Maybe. I met you in Goa. I don't know if you remember me. My name's Scott. I'm the sensitive Pisces. You remember me? No?
Maybe not. Maybe if I saw you, I might remember you. But not from voice alone.
Yeah, I suppose it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. I have no argument with anything you talk about. I'm crystal clear that I'm not Scott. I've been at this for quite a while. I've been all over the world seeking this, and I suppose this is the same standard question you receive a lot, but what to do when you more or less understand intellectually non-duality, and I mean, what to do. I'm kind of at this place of dispassion.
Yeah.
Where I'm really not interested in anything anymore. Matter of fact, I've listened to so many non-duality videos, I'm just not interested in it anymore because I have no disagreement. It sounds perfectly logical and reasonable.
Yeah.
And I've experienced these states of satori is the word, I think.
Yeah.
Japanese word satori of elation. And now I just don't care to do anything. I've watched probably every one of your videos. I've watched every one of Roger's videos, and I could name 10 others. I could name 20 others. I've read every book on the topic. And I've been in this place for several years, as a matter of fact. I've been fortunate enough so that I don't have to work much. And so I spend so much time in meditation and I went to India to follow Roger, but I couldn't. He was there when you were there, but for whatever reason I missed him. Then I found out you were going to be in Goa, and I ended up staying at this yoga village place right next to where you were. And then I saw you, and then I came to Rishikesh and saw you. And so I'm not new to this. This is 15 to 20 years worth of seeking, and I'm aware. I'm so consciously aware of the fact that the seeking is probably the problem. But once you get a glimpse of this, it's not like there's a choice necessarily to stop, because it's all you really want and all you've ever wanted.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting position to be in, because I have no argument. I have no argument whatsoever with what non-duality is, and it's quite clear that I'm not Scott.
And what would you like to get to? Like, what's your destination in mind?
I don't know. I mean, I could give you the right answer. I can honestly say it'd probably be happiness.
Yeah.
But it seems as though there's something inside me that just can't find any permanent happiness.
Right.
That there's this yearning for something else, which, again, intellectually, I know that there isn't anything else.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of mad.
I think a lot of people can relate to you that are listening now. This is the infuriating side of non-duality, because there can be years and years and years of seeking. I mean, in more traditional sides, they would say lifetimes of seeking of this.
Right.
Yeah, and we don't understand it. We don't understand really what happens or what creates that awakening shift. I think that scientists are getting closer to understanding it, and I think that they will get closer to understanding it more. They study psychedelics.
Well, I've been down that rabbit hole a million.
Yeah.
I just got back from Peru. Lisa,
Oh, yeah.
I just went back from Peru. I have a friend who's from Lithuania, and he's realized what I feel is realized, and he lives in a little shack on the side of a mountain in Peru.
Yeah.
He has a YouTube channel. It's called A Simple Hermit. Anyways, I was with him in this little shack for 30 days, and I fasted for 21 days, water fast. and I
Wow.
meditated 8 hours a day on the side of a mountain. And then I went to another part of Peru with a shaman and drank ayahuasca 5 more times. And now
Wow.
I've drank so much ayahuasca, I don't even know how many times. More than 100 probably, you
Wow.
know? So it's like, what else do I got to do? I don't mind just sitting here and resting if that'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I mean,
Wow.
I've done every psychedelic you could imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
who goes to the side of a mountain in Peru with no running water, no electricity, and fasts for 21 days and sits with this enlightened guru? And I'm very skeptical when I call a person enlightened. I mean, I'm very, very skeptical, especially of non-duality teachers. When
Yeah.
I look at you, and although we can say that there's no enlightenment or whatever the hell, I look at you and I know that you've had some kind of shift that I respect, that I can say that I believe you know. And my buddy as well, so I followed him. And I follow him all over the world if it means that I could just have whatever this is, you know.
Mm.
I
What do you feel now when you say this? What happens inside of you?
just this desperate longing
Yeah, to get home.
for for God. I don't know how else to explain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
just I just don't want anything else.
yeah, totally. And totally
I
you
don't
can
care
let,
about anything
you know,
else.
so you can let those tears like come and just come out, like there's an energy that's in the body.
That and that has happened too, to be totally honest. This crying, this releasing. You know, when I saw you in Goa, it was in Rishikesh. You said, Scott, you just need to have this come to Jesus moment. Like, God, why are you forsaking me? This is
Mm.
what you told me. And I had that moment a day before I saw you, and many times prior
Yeah.
to that,
Mm.
and after.
Yeah.
It's just I'm just kind of at a point where I would like to surrender.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this word so much lately.
Yeah.
But even surrendering, there's an act of doing, it seems.
Yeah. I think that we could
It's
have a
an
very
act of,
long conversation, like because like there's I can see that there's like what if I was working on one to one with you, I would work on those feelings in the body and becoming more attuned to those feelings, because those feelings go really deep. The sense of being kicked out of heaven, and this sense of like desperately trying to get back home, like working on the feelings that arise with that, because they can be very much attributed to things that happen in this life and maybe happened in previous lives as well. So finding the cause to that and just sitting with them, but at the same time like trying to work as well on this idea of this place, this you and this place that you're going to arrive at, because that's so illusion. I know you know all this mental stuff, and I know that you have had all these experiences, but these are the two like big things that I can hear when you're speaking. And so we would really go into that, and that's maybe there's a sense of victimization as well, like that you've been left out and everybody else has got it. But 20 years in the great scheme of things isn't a long time. I know it feels like a long time, but in the scheme of things, it isn't actually a long time. And in a way, your awakening is happening now, and all the suffering that's come from the past is seemingly happening now. It's not really happening in the timeline. But even in saying this, like I'm sure that your mind is like, yeah, I've heard this, but free me.
I'm also beyond the point where I think anybody else can free me. I wouldn't quite say that. I wouldn't quite say that.
Yeah.
You know, intellectually, there's people out here that are powerful that may be able to cause a shift in some way, but I'm certainly not looking for you specifically.
Yeah,
To free
totally.
me at
Yeah.
the same time.
No, I know, but there's that like that edge of just wanting it to snap. So it's not necessarily me, but it's like these words come, but it's just like it's like the words are just words passing through. So, I mean, I haven't really got much advice from you. That's what I would do if I was in a one-to-one session with you, which I won't do online because I sometimes feel that people expose themselves and too vulnerable online. But apart from that, like in the end, I don't know the answer to all of this. Like I don't know what creates it to happen. I can talk about things that seem to happen and seem to be a pattern, but in the end I don't know. And how much would that help you anyway? I feel like more than anything you just want to be heard. Like you want to say this and be heard and someone to really listen and go, I understand, I do understand, and I understand how painful that is, and I really hear that you know the effort that you've put in and all the things that you've done and the places that you've been and that exhaustion. I really hear that. But I also hear in that there is a depth of experiencing, there is a depth of knowledge there as well.
Yeah, but to what end, you know? I mean, so I have all this knowledge and this experience and read the books and I've done the meditations and I've done the trips to India. And to me, it just feels like I'm at a place where none of that really matters. I mean, and further, that's all things that already happened in the past. It's not helping anything now. It's just wild when I can listen to somebody like you or some of the others, and it just feels crystal clear.
Yeah.
But there is this sense of there's just this tiny little, or this very major dam that just needs to snap, and maybe the floodgates would open up, and yet I'm aware that that's waiting for an experience in the future that isn't going to happen. So without sounding arrogant, I'm aware of these things, and yet the pain is just, and the pain is getting more and more pronounced also.
Really? Yeah.
In a way, you know.
That sometimes can be, like, you know, I talk about settling the person, but sometimes it can get worse. I'm sure, like, yeah, it can get worse because it's like that build up, and the like when you're studying non-duality, you're kind of like pulling out blocks like Jenga, and so like when you're pulling out bits of yourself, it's like your coping mechanisms and your survival mechanisms. And all of these things that make up a person that functions in this society can be pulled away, so the pain can increase. It can be for some people that they become more and more balanced, but for some it seems that their pain becomes more increased. Like Eckhart Tolle, he's very famous, like he went into this massive depression and hell, and then there was this pop that happened. I think Byron Katie's another one like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've read both Eckhart's books 5 or 6 times, and I've listened to them on audio equally as many times, you know. And I gotta tell you, I hate to compare, but whatever Eckhart Tolle's pain, I mean, you know, I have my own story, and the pain is significant.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's cool. I really appreciate you saying it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sure you've done it, but there is on my website there is recommendations and links to things to help with trauma and to help ease these types of pains, like not non-duality based, but to.
I actually, you know, I actually haven't. It's possible those things you have are similar to some things I may have done in the past.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just kind of like I'm at the point where another technique or another practice or another, you know, it's like how many. I'm gonna find the one technique that's gonna make it happen. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll look.
But yeah, there can be techniques out there. Like I had a bit of trauma in my life, like not what some people experience, and there can be techniques out there that really reduce the symptoms of it, which can be creating a lot of pain that we're not conscious of. Like cause your system and your body can be getting hyperly aroused from the trauma, and you don't really know that and you don't really know that that's different from other people. And there are very scientific approaches now to trauma to be able to decrease that and desensitize those experiences, which could potentially help. But I know it's like another carrot that like you feel maybe being dangled in front of you. But if if you haven't done specific trauma work, that might be something that diffuses that pain to an extent, or reduces that pain to an extent.
Yeah. Well, I'll look and I'll try for sure.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, it sounds like you're all trying. You're very willing.
oh man.
You're very willing.
I really have no interest in anything else at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, really nothing else.
Yeah.
And
And this is often the story for a lot of people. You know, if you listen to a lot of teachers, that's often what they report. Like for me, that was the same. I got totally hooked, you know, like a fish on a fishing line. Like just couldn't. Just that was all there was non-duality for quite a few years. Quite a lot of years.
yeah, I'm supposed to go to a cabin here. I live in Mexico now. I'm supposed to go to this cabin here in a couple of weeks. I found a small cabin in the middle of the mountains, and my plan is just to sit there and meditate until something happens. And I just don't know what else to do, but I think I'm going to do that because what else to do? I mean, that sounds crazy to most people, I understand, but
I mean, that's what the Buddha did. I don't know your story though. I don't know if that's appropriate for you. I'm not recommending it or not recommending it. But that's what the Buddha did, and that's what Ramana Maharshi did. So I don't think we can call it crazy. I don't know if it's healthy or not healthy though. I can't comment on that line of things.
well, my friend, he always emphasizes going on a retreat alone and seeing what feelings come up and what arises, you know. And I think for me, the thing is this is the one thing I haven't done is gone by myself in nature and just sat, you know, no electricity, no Wi-Fi, none of that, and just see what happens. It's just the only thing I haven't done. I've done it with a man, and I've done it in ashrams, but there might be something different in nature, you know. So I figure might as well try.
Might as well try. Yeah, nice. Well, really nice to speak with you. I'm sorry to hear about the pain that's arising. I really have compassion for that, and it's a difficult path sometimes.
Yeah, part of me holds on to some kind of hope, or I have some kind of solace in the possibility that this pain is going to show me something. I hate to say leading somewhere, you know, because obviously.
Yeah.
but
I do kind of have this mentality, like even though it's not. I mean, this is like years and years of conditioning through spirituality, that everything helps us grow. Like if you look at life, it's always like that, you know. It's like life is always expanding, so every obstacle that comes, there's always the expansion as well. Like in a way you could say that obstacles are growth. Yeah.
Then I just must transform into Ramana tomorrow. You know, that's kind of how I feel. It's funny. I love Ramana. I love him so much.
Yeah, he's beautiful.
But
yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, nice.
I just be comfortable being me in my skin. I don't know why I can't.
Yeah, I hear that.
It's wild. It's just so wild. This whole thing is just everybody else is trying to build, and I'm trying to
deconstruct.
Yes. And
yeah, you took the path of Shiva or Kali. Maybe Kali is better. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I mean,
yeah, pleasure, Scott. Yeah, lovely to hear from you again, and I hope that this has had some sort of healing purpose in the sense that just being heard. Like I hear you, and I'm sure there's so many people out there that hear you, really hear you. I don't know what that means, but there is some healing in that, being heard.
Well, I agree with you when you talk about the idea that everything along the path is, I mean, I'm sure I'm coming to it. Right now I'm coming to it, you know, maybe it'll take lifetimes, but I'm one of the ones I feel like I don't want to go any more lifetimes. I've had enough. I just had enough.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. What else to do? But continue.
Yeah. Well, let us know how your trip into nature goes. Maybe you can give us an update when you come back to civilization.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Really lovely to speak with you again. And maybe you can send me your photo and I will remember you from the talk, because I normally always remember the faces.
On Skype?
Yeah, on Skype, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Bye.
All right, Lisa. See ya.
Yeah. So, that's the end for today. Yeah, lovely to spend time with you. Thank you for the people that called in, and for Scott and for Altia. Yeah, really lovely that people feel safe enough to share themselves, and I think it's super helpful for other people that are listening. And I wish everybody everything. And just a reminder, I'm not recommending anything. So you heard us talking about psychedelics, and I'm not recommending you do that, because that's not what I'm here and about. And I'm not recommending you take on ideas that I'm saying. Like everything that I say and I've spoken today, it's ways to help or give out this information, and this information may liberate some ideas, may liberate, but they also might not be useful, so just chuck them out. It's not like believe everything I believe. I'm not teaching that. I'm not saying that non-duality is right. I'm just pointing to something deeper, and there is no truth. Yes. Yeah, thank you everybody for your participation. I love you, and I wish you every goddamn